The Turn On Your Inner Light Show. It's time to stop just surviving, and it's time to begin to thrive. It's time to live happier and healthier. Turn stress into strength. Noted author Debbie Mandel will show you how to move beyond personal doubts and fears and into positive perception to turn on your inner light. Here's your host, Debbie Mandel.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my show. Our guest expert is Alan Kaufman, novelist and poet, editor of the Outlaw Bible of American Poetry and co-editor of the Outlaw Bible of American Literature, over 20 years clean and sober, and author of Drunken Angel. Here's how to go from ruin to recovery. Welcome, Alan.
Hi, Debbie.
Now, in light of what happened to Whitney Houston, and we all know about Lindsay Lohan and all these celebrities, I think there's a certain commonality to my thread that maybe sensitive, artistic people tend to be prone to substance abuse and other addictions. Do you feel that way?
I think that there is a strong tradition in the 20th century, in the mid to 19th century, the 19th century to the late 20th century, and now the 21st of that. But it wasn't always the case. And there are many great examples also of people who were artists and writers who did not drink or drug themselves to death. But yes, there's no question that seems to be part and parcel of the tradition of being an artist today.
Do you think it's because artists tend to have their nerves exposed on their skin, so to speak? I mean, we know about Edgar Allan Poe, and if some artists don't drink, they might put a bullet in their head like Hemingway, or isolate themselves from humanity like Salinger. What do you think?
Well, I think that we tend to venerate the tradition of those people who pursue a kind of suicidal course who are artists. But if you look back on the tradition of literature, art, there are so many examples of people who had healthy lives who were not addicts. I mean, anyone from Tolstoy to Isaac Bashevis Singer, from Picasso to any artist who's practicing today who we hear about, who did not kill themselves, drinking and drugging.
But so they had a lot of sex. I mean, same thing, right?
I mean, Tolstoy?
Well, no, but Picasso was no. I mean, we look at a lot of the artists, and they're pretty all over the place.
Right. I think that, there's no question that the artist does defy, convention. Mm. And I think that the artist, the writer, to some degree, defies the norm and exists in a way by dint of occupation outside of the norm. I mean, writing and art are not things that are integral to the capitalist system, for instance. They're not something that's part and parcel of our daily life. I mean, we like them, we like to go to museums, and we like to read books, but the artist and writer lives outside of society to a great degree. There is no, real setup for the writer or artist to exist. They have to kind of scramble to survive. So I think it does kind of push them out, even in Jewish culture. I mean, Kafka said, that an artist is a family's worst curse. That a family that has an artist born to it is cursed.
True.
And in part, that's because the parents are like, oh no, my son wants to be a writer. Oh no, my son wants to be an artist, It means, you're going to face rejection and deprivation. So that certainly contributes to using and drinking in artistic culture.
And especially if you write things that criticize your community, you're going to be, I guess, tarred and feathered and driven out of town in a rail. So that,
kind of heresy in a way.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes an artist is prophetic and ahead of the time period, and people don't understand that. Hence, many die in poverty or in misery, never having been acknowledged for their contribution. And I think to manage stress, we need a support system. And as you aptly put it, the artist has to scramble. I really like that term, to find some kind of support or safety net. So let me ask you, Mr. Artist, how did you climb out of your abyss?
Okay, well, I think, there are 2 points to address in my own personal experience. One is that a seed was planted in me early on, and by my mother, despite the fact that I had what, quote unquote, is a very dysfunctional childhood, etc. Nonetheless, a seed was planted by my mother that I was here on this earth to do something important. What exactly that was, I wasn't clear, but that I was here to do something. So I had a sense early on that my life meant something, that it was important to do something, but I didn't know what, and I didn't know how. I was totally unequipped for that. The other thing is that, I reached the point in my drinking where it was killing me. And, it's one thing to say, I'm just going to shrug and I don't care if I die, but it's another thing to actually face an alcoholic death. It's a slow, agonizing death, where you're stripped, you're divested of all those things that have any meaning to you whatsoever. And I realized very clearly by the time I was 37 and a half years old, it's quite late, that I was lying on a park bench in a park dying, that whatever dreams I had were not going to happen. And whatever I hoped my life would be was not going to happen. And that terrified me. And I think that the combination of those 2 things, the sense that I was here to do something in this world, and also the terror that I would not be able to because of my addiction, I think saved me.
Now, the purpose is what you're getting at. And let me ask you this. We know that in a 12-step program, spirituality is important to climb out. And many people wrestle with that because they're existential, or there's just nothingness for them, and they can't buy into religion or to God. Maybe there's a universe, maybe there's Zen. So what do you do in that sense when you're finding your purpose? Could it just be secular, is what I'm asking?
One has to believe in a power greater than oneself.
Let's hold that great power for a minute, because we're going to a pedestrian commercial break,
okay.
And we will return with Alan Kaufman, who will answer our cosmic questions. He's the author of Drunken Angel.
Now you can take Debbie Mandel home with you. Her book, Turn On Your Inner Light, Fitness for Body, Mind, and Soul, will help you decompress with healthy, positive, concrete solutions. Common life challenges are presented so that you can quickly find the help you need. Emotional tips, original meditations, and a fun and easy-to-follow fitness workout for each mindset. This revolutionary new method will help you rewire mind and body to take back your power. Get it on Amazon.
Are you overwhelmed with the burden of taking care of children, parents, or both? Are you taking care of everyone else except yourself? It's time to change your habits and re-energize. Debbie Mandel gives you an innovative and easy-to-follow program for good health and happiness. In her magical new book, Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, Debbie Mandel shows you step-by-step how to find the optimal balance between giving and receiving, and guides you to exercise and eat right to take care of yourself. What are you waiting for? Read Changing Habits and start training for your life. Life does not need to be a burden. Get Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, on Amazon.
You're listening to the Turn On Your Inner Light show. I'm your host, Debbie Mandel, and I'm speaking with Alan Kaufman, author of Drunken Angel. Okay, Alan, before commercial break, we were speaking about purpose, spirituality, or secular.
I mentioned that you asked, can one be secular in pursuing recovery? And I responded by saying that one needs to believe in a power greater than oneself. Now, that said, anything that is, not oneself alone, exclusively, can constitute a power greater than oneself. In other words, me plus someone else is a power greater than me. The love of a child can be a power greater than oneself. If one is a parent and one is drinking oneself to death, and one sees on a daily basis how this is impacting on the child, one's love for the child can be sufficient to put one's feet on the path to recovery. And, anything basically can serve that. Even a therapist that one trusts, anything that's me plus someone else, something else, me not doing it alone, can be a power greater than oneself. And of course, what that implies is that, the word God and all of these things, holiness can reside in basically anything, and that's one of the things we learn in recovery is that sense of sacredness can exist all around us in the commonplaceness of our own life. If we just, open our mind to the possibility of love, or open our mind to the possibility of trust, open our mind to the possibility of someone else's help. We need help when we're addicts and alcoholics, and reaching out for that help is a sacred act and does connect us with a kind of higher power, which we unfold and changes and we discover as we go forward.
Which is interesting. I mean, when you talk about humanity and needing someone else and admitting vulnerability and connecting, I don't know if I would have used the word sacred. I think to me there's a great deal of power in a flower, but I don't know if I would call it a sacred power necessarily. Could be just nature, could be my response to it for the moment. Do you know what I'm saying? I hear a lot of... it's funny. When people tell me nature is their higher power, I respect anybody's higher power. But personally, for myself, I could stand in front of the ocean from now to eternity, and I'm just not convinced that's going to stop me from drinking. Right. And that's a great point. But I don't think of nature as a higher power. I just think of that's what it is. It's just...
I don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
But I do think of me plus another human being as a higher power.
And the therapist that we trust, which is very hard to find. But that's good. Now, you wrote, you just got it. You wrote about a mentor, right? Do you need a guide out of the abyss who's been
someone
there?
Who's been in recovery, someone who's in recovery, someone who can help one to go forward. And one can find such mentors in 12-step programs, in all kinds of places, rehabs, 12-step programs, places where recovery is the focus. That's the place to find such people. And to trust, the big step forward is to trust that they're there to help you. To open one's mind to following a couple simple suggestions.
So,
when I came into recovery, I was so close-minded. I never followed anyone's suggestion.
Oh.
I was really just running on self-will. And just opening my mind to the possibility of following even 50% of someone else's suggestions just around the area of recovery began to change my life.
Now, on the subject of suggestions, you wrote the word HALT for simple steps.
Hungry, angry, lonely, and tired.
And that would work.
Yes. In other words, to watch for hunger. If you're hungry, eat. To watch for anger. If you're angry, calm down. Go take a walk. Breathe. If you're lonely, connect with someone else. Go someplace where there's people. Connect. Tired, take a nap. Little simple things like that can make all the difference.
So to keep yourself in a kind of balance and equilibrium, is there a role to food? Because I think alcoholics tend to have a sweet tooth.
In the first year of recovery, it's always advised to carry a candy bar with you because when you're craving, especially alcohol, but also drugs, you're craving some sugar, you're craving some sweets. So eat some candy. I mean, candy never landed anyone on a park bench, dying. In the first year, certainly, to carry some candy with one is a very advised thing to do.
And then, should you be on, let's say, a Mediterranean diet? They're very sunny and well balanced over there. I mean, is there a component to eating protein and carbs and fruits and veggies, so like you are what you eat, so to speak?
I would say that, of course, one of the ancillary benefits of, putting down alcohol and putting down drugs is one becomes aware of this thing called health. One becomes aware of one's body. One becomes aware of one's spirit, in a way. And so one begins almost naturally, becomes inclined to begin to eat better once one takes those first steps towards saving one's life. And so there's no question that improved eating habits is a byproduct of recovery, and eating healthily can only improve the situation. No question about it.
Now, when you were dealing with your sponsors, they were interesting characters. Given your level of education, how did you connect or find that golden thread between you and your sponsor? What were the words that reached out to you? But we're going to commercial break, so you got a second to think about it. And we will return with Alan Kaufman, author of Drunken Angel. Dear listeners, I'm excited to tell you about my new book, Addicted to Stress. This is the message you need to hear. Are you addicted to stress? Do you do it all while everyone depends on you? Where's all this pressure coming from? It is coming from inside you. This is why my publisher, John Wiley, asked me to write Addicted to Stress, a woman's 7-step program to reclaim joy and spontaneity in life. This fun-to-read book teaches proven strategies to reclaim your life, silence your inner critic, build a healthy body, and reframe your thoughts to change your life for the better. Dare to be happy without the guilt. Addicted to Stress is easy to get. It's available at Barnes & Noble and other fine bookstores everywhere. You can also buy it at Amazon and other online retailers. We're back with Alan Kaufman, author of Drunken Angel. So tell us about your interesting guides.
Well, when I came into recovery and I started going to 12-step programs, it was advised that I get what's called a sponsor. And a sponsor was anybody who had worked the 12 steps, who had sobriety, who had time. They would say, the magic words. They would say, I have 18 years clean and sober. To somebody who had 2 days of clean and sober or a week clean and sober, that seemed like science fiction. I mean, how was it possible that you could stay clean and sober for 18 years? Also, I had the gift of desperation. That's, the short term for God. His gift of desperation. I was absolutely desperate. And if you're in that place where you're dying of alcoholism or dying of drug addiction, you really, you're ready to listen. So, I met individuals who had 18 years of sobriety, 20 years of sobriety, and so I asked the first one actually just announced himself to me and said, I'll be your sponsor, and he kind of offered himself. Mm-hmm. And I said yes. I mean, I had no options, really. And so happily, thank, heavens, they turned out to be really wonderful people who wanted nothing more than to help, because helping me kept them sober. And that's something that I came to realize, too. By helping me, they were keeping themselves sober.
We teach what we have to learn, so to speak.
Well, yeah, and they kind of redefined the term service for me in their own example. I mean, I realized that if I wanted to stay sober, I was going to have to extend help to others. But if I was going to help others, I was going to have something to give away first, and I had to learn what that was. So that's part and parcel of recovery, too. You're not just learning how to stay sober, you're learning how to help others.
Is your baby Drunken Angel a therapeutic expiation of this time in your life? Is it a way to get rid of the demons?
You know, it's my third book. My, Jew Boy was about being the son of a Holocaust survivor, and there was no question that was for me a kind of expiation. My second book matches a novel based on my experiences as an Israeli soldier. Also was a kind of revisiting and an expiation. And this, no question, is an expiation, but even further, I'm hoping that it will serve as a tool of service for others, that others will read it and gain inspiration from it and hope.
So it's you, through your personal sharing, through this memoir, really reaching out to the community of man, and in so doing, expanding.
And women.
I use the term generally. Yes. Are there more male addicts versus female? Although I did cite Whitney Houston and Lindsay Lohan, two female figures. But is alcoholism something men gravitate to more than women? Substance abuse? No.
Absolutely not. I've met so many women alcoholics and drug addicts, it's not even funny. And
equal opportunity.
It's an equal opportunity disease. And, we really do recommend that women work with women, men work with men. That women will gain more from the experience of other women. But, there's a lot of overlap in the general sense. I mean, women call me up and ask for, advice, or, we'll bump into each other at meetings and chat. It's really a disease that cuts across all alcoholism, drug addiction, cuts across all ethnicities, religions, social barriers. It takes everybody down. And people who have it are doomed. They really are, unless they get help. It's a devolving situation. It never improves. It only gets worse.
Right.
When you realize that you're trapped in this whirlpool, and you're going down, I mean, there's no going up. You're desperate. You'll reach for anything. You'll reach for whatever you can grab onto as a lifesaver. And the great news is there's so much help out there available.
And you've been a wonderful help. Our time together is up. And I urge everyone to read Drunken Angel. It's a beautiful book. It's touching and it's witty. I especially like Deb the Goldfish, not because she's named after me. Well, be well, and I can't wait to read your next book.
Thank you, Debbie.
Affirmation of the week. If you seek the truth, you have to ignore what you would like to be true. And now for the latest medical trends. It's no secret that the empty calories in soda and other sugary drinks can contribute to weight gain and obesity. But a new study from the American Heart Association suggests these beverages also may harm your heart, even if they don't cause you to gain weight. And while we're on the subject of Harvard research, in a new study in the Archives of Internal Medicine, the risk of dying at an early age from heart disease, cancer, or any other cause rises in step with red meat consumption. So we need to curtail that. Obese women were able to exercise for a longer period of time when the palms of their hands were cooled. Reports researcher Stacy Sims, an exercise physiologist and nutrition scientist at Stanford University School of Medicine. That's very interesting results, and may get people who raise their metabolic rate so much, and obese people are carrying more weight when they move. If they're cooler, they can exercise longer and reap the benefits. More women are waiting to get married. However, they are choosing not to wait to have children. Now, that's interesting, I guess, kind of pointer coming from the Center for Family and Marriage Research at Bowling Green State University. When you think about Botox injections, you probably think of getting rid of unwanted wrinkles around the eyes or forehead. But recently, the FDA approved using the injections to help patients with neurological conditions who suffer from incontinence or an overactive bladder. A new study suggests that older people may have an increased risk of problems with memory and thinking abilities after being in the hospital, according to research published in Neurology. And there might be something to that Twinkie defense. Researchers at the University of California have shown that men and women, and of all ages, by the way, Caucasians and minorities, when they eat dietary trans fats, they have greater irritability and aggression. So cut those sweets. Well, we come to the close of another show. I have an educational website on stress management, totally free. TurnOnYourInnerLight.com. All the radio shows with the guest experts are archived for your listening pleasure. They take you right into YouTube from my site, free, easy access. Subscribe to that free newsletter I have, and you'll get the latest alerts about the radio shows and a fresh new article on stress management, all the health tips completely delineated from TurnOnYourInnerLight.com. Have a wonderful week and see you on the radio.